Hello, hello. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Hit like, hit subscribe. Today I'm going to go through some hard groove percussion. My approach towards it, I'm not typically a hard groove producer, but I do sometimes opt for that style of percussion within my own genre and style of production and music. So just want you to know this can be used, and I use this approach to anything I'm trying to create. If I'm, pinching different elements from different genres, it's very important to reference, in my personal opinion. I know not everybody does, but I'll show you why in this case. More so if you're new to a genre or you're getting into a new genre and you might not understand, or your ear might not be used to the fundamentals of different sounds and elements of other songs and tracks. Referencing is a good way to start, just so you know where you're going. And I'll get right into it. So something I made earlier, kick and bass. I've got a clap here in the gold. I've got this purple loop, which is going to be reference loop. And then what I've made with MIDI and some other audio samples. So all together with the reference loop off, we'll get into it. Nothing special, but it's taking that sort of road towards a hard groove track, or at least that style, right? That influence. So the kick and bass is quite simple. Kick is quite short. The sub is just one of my kicks. I've just reversed it to sort of create its own sidechain. So together, we're just giving that extra oomph. The bass is just a hip hop drum sample, I think. What did I do there? Hang on. Yeah, it's just like a roll, a live acoustic drum sample. Taken off the high end. This is all for demonstration purposes. Hats, pretty standard. And we've got the clap. Now, the groove or the drive is coming from this group down here that I've called Perk. Now I wanted to do this in Ableton, so you could replicate it as well if you're using Ableton, because it's just through a standard drum kit, and Ableton has heaps of them that you can use to at least get started. I then have as well just an extra hat, which is an audio sample, and some stuff I've chopped up. So if I add these two channels in, we'll just get more of a solid backbone foundation to keep it going. And this is just a perk loop that I've chopped from another sample. Now, how did I get to that point? I got to that point where I got an existing loop that I liked, that I found energetic and driving, and I threw it in, which is, quite typical your 90s rave into now, that hard groove sort of style. And for me to get to that point, even though, I've been doing this long enough, I can just, replicate that. But, I still reference, and in a very, very simple way, where the first thing I did is I looped a smaller section and I would listen. Let's get that even. So we'll do it at the start, right? So I'll loop a smaller section. And the first thing I notice is it's got that offbeat bass. So I know there's some sort of low end there, or tom, or whatever you want to call it, that's sort of pulsating the backbone in between the middle of this loop. And that's another reason I work in this arrangement in Ableton, because I know I'm hearing it here in the middle of that section that I've looped off. So at least I know I can put it there. And another thing to do, if I Command E this and then just turn it off, what's happening at the start of it? There's a crash or a knock that's at the start with another little short part. And again, Command E, deactivate it. Have a listen what's there. We've heard that sound a million times. Your DAW will have stock sounds available that will sound like this. And same this way. So if you hang on, there we go. Let's open this up. Even if we turn this off, You get the drift, right? We're just breaking it down. When you put that together and you actually just stop for 2 minutes to actually critically listen to see what's involved, you can get to that quickly. So now I've gone a bit longer so it sounds more natural rather than listening to it in short snippets. How did I get there? First thing I did was I created a MIDI clip and I went into drums in Ableton. Ableton 11. These are just standard. When I open my drums, all these kits are here. I downloaded them when I got it. All different styles. And it was the Eggs of Satan. What a name. Where is it? E, here we go. So when I heard that initial preset, there was sounds in there that was similar. And another thing is too, I'm using it as a reference. I'm not sitting here as a challenge trying to recreate it like for like. It's a reference, it's a guide for me to get to something similar so I can get moving in my own production. Now, I've dragged that on stock. Now, there's a bit going on here, and you don't need to use this much, but this kit, I felt it needed it. With the headphones on, the first thing I did, and I'll loop it shorter again, was I went to the start, and we got that offbeat bass I was talking about in the middle. And we can hear it. We can also have this hit right at the start, which is what we also found up here. Funny enough though, I sort of left this offbeat, well, this part here empty in the MIDI clip, because I had it hit out of this first loop. Out of this first loop it started to hit, along with I did put other things there in other audio samples. Then I just trialed and errored, and all I did was, I know now if you open this MIDI up, it looks a bit, complex and busy, but if I Command E this and delete that, what I basically did was I started with just that loop, because once I filled that out, duplicate and Command J the whole lot. So simplify it, break it down, and it becomes a lot easier to navigate. It's not such a big task. So without the added hi-hats here and that random perk, you'll see I'm essentially visually copying also what that may look like up top to my reference loop, okay? And look, I'm happy with that as it is, but I did want to spice it up and just add those. Now, it's not going to be exactly the same, but I sort of used it as my influence, if you will, to try and get something similar. So the similarities are there, but the sounds are different. And that's fine. I'm not trying to rip this off like for like. I'm not in a competition to recreate something. But altogether, when you stack it with your kick and bass, I would then loop it out, Command J, and I got my whole loop. The good thing about this is the MIDI part of it, especially if you're using stock stuff from Ableton, you could also do this with your own drum rack. You can just throw on a drum rack, you have all the slots empty, and you can be a bit more specific and take your time to drag and drop sounds you already might have in a library that are going to resonate with you, or even your favorite sample pack that you might reach to. But I like, and I do that too, but some of these Ableton stock kits are just unreal, as you can hear there. It's good to go. Another good kit for this style or genre is the Congo ABC. It's got those tribal drum sounds in there already. And if I just solo this, I didn't include it in. I just did set it up though to show you how cool those kits are. That's no processing. That's just a few notes that are getting triggered. Started with that offbeat bass. But of course, we can turn this up. I've got the capitator. Bit out of time, but you get the gist. The Congos are cool for this genre. So, I mean, in summary, I do this with so many different genres, sounds, anything. Even there's been times where, you know, I can't really like play keys per se. So if there's a certain synth sound or at least the melody that I like, I'll just throw the waveform in there. If it's quite repetitive over, say, a 16 bar loop, I'll just really shrink the loop and just really listen to what's in there. And sometimes it might only be 3 or 4 notes. And I'll just, you know, duplicate a MIDI underneath and draw in place roughly, you know, the same spots to at least get on that same pathway, right? And then I can just go through, change my samples, change my synths, whatever it may be, and I can get the ball rolling. So this isn't just for hard groove. I've used hard groove as the example of, you know, actually referencing and just taking your time to think about where you want to go, how you're going to get there. But it can be used for anything, whether it's sound design or other genres. So one more listen and we'll get going. But one more thing before I go, even though I had this little sub, that's pretty, you know, typical, generic, just floor to the floor stuff. But the groove is obviously coming from the percussion in this little loop I've made, but the bass is a huge factor. And I've done this rough. It was going to be on mute, but obviously it stayed on. Getting a drum sample and throwing it in there and sort of looping or dragging the cursor to really gel it into your original kick. Low pass filter, cut the highs off. I've got a device I'll share with you soon. We can make it like a rumble. And, you know, you can even side chain it, play with this. You can transpose lower. It's not that groovy right now, but I am going to do a video of trying to, how would I approach a bass line that's going to sort of, you know, get moving and stuff like that. So that's it. Quick one for me tonight. Enjoy. It's simple, but it's effective. Short loops. Listen. See what's in place. Work visually as well if that helps. Play Tetris. Play Tetris. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Arrivederci. Ciao.